Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today is the day we've been waiting for. It is officially kickoff day for the 2025 UFL season. If you're watching this the day it comes out, in just a few hours, or hell, maybe even while you're watching this, the game between the Battlehawks and Roughnecks will be going on, which I will be live streaming that game, by the way, doing a live play-by-play. And so yes, it is finally time for the season to commence, meaning it is finally time for me to do my first game picks video for the 2025 season. Now, for those of you who don't know how these work, essentially I give my predictions, my exact score predictions for each game, compare it to what the current odds are, and just kind of look at them, compare that, see how close I am overall across the season, what I did the past season, all that. Again, if you are going to bet, make sure you do it at your own risk and all that. And so without further ado, let's get started with the two games before Sunday. The St. Louis Battlehawks versus Roughnecks today, Friday the 28th, and tomorrow on Saturday, the Brahmas versus Renegades. Now, most important thing about the Battlehawks Roughnecks game is the weather. It is entirely possible this game gets delayed, or there's delays during the game, or it just ends up being a really ugly game. I'm recording this late on Thursday. The current forecasts are that it's going to be scattered thunderstorms or just rain during that game. So automatically, I view this as a low-scoring game. Now, it's important to note a couple things. When we see these first week games, it's always the sloppiest football because these teams, of course, are having to get used to being together in a true game setting, right? We even see this in the NFL, but the only season where we saw even somewhat good play was the first season or the second season of the USFL in 2023, and that was because you had the most cohesiveness from year one to year two. The UFL was better than every other year besides that one, but because of the dispersal draft, still had a lot of new players. This season should have the best week one play since the 2023 USFL season. It might even be better. But these two teams in the weather, I don't know about that one. The Battlehawks, of course, are going to be running with the Manny Wilkins and Max Duggan dual QB combo versus the Roughnecks, who are going to be mainly just running Anthony Brown. Again, weather's going to be a huge factor in this game, so I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But overall, the better team is the Battlehawks, so I have the Battlehawks winning 19-14 in a low-scoring slugfest. Yes, I think this hits the under. I think that Houston does cover the spread. When you see a slugfest type of game and the spread is anything over really 4, if you truly believe it's going to be a low-scoring game, of course you're going to pick with the spread. I just feel like Houston, at the return to TECU, is not just going to go lay an egg. They're not just going to go show up and score, a field goal or one touchdown. They're going to probably get 2 touchdowns, get a 2-point conversion, and 19-14. Field goals, I'm not super confident we're going to see them, but I wouldn't be shocked if we do see St. Louis make one. They make a field goal, they get specific extra points for them, and it ends up being 19-14. I think that St. Louis is just a better team. Look, I have a lot of questions about their quarterback play, and their coaching is okay. But it's still better coaching than what Houston has. In Houston, it's going to be the Anthony Brown show. If he plays really well and so does Justin Hall, the team will be able to make this really competitive. There's a lot of guys who are coming back on defense, so we'll see how well their defense ends up playing. Of course, a lot of players left, but guys like Olive Sagapalu is back. So we'll see. I do think St. Louis wins, though. I think it's 19-14. They get the edge. They're just a better team, and the weather's going to help them out enough. They win. Now, the Brahmas Renegades is the single toughest game to pick, in my opinion. Every other game, even the Memphis-Michigan, which is another tough game to call, I think this one is far more difficult. Because I could legitimately see this going anyway. I could see this being a Renegades blowout in a high-scoring game. I could see this be the Brahmas win a shootout or a low-scoring game by a point. I could see the Brahmas win this by a blowout. I think this could easily be an over or under game. Weather's going to play less of a factor, but it does look like there is still a chance to rain. It's a tough one, but I'm ultimately going to go with the Renegades winning 24-22, and here's why. The narrative is that Luis Perez and the Renegades can't win early on. Perez has been on the losing side of multiple kickoff games. The Renegades have never been a great team to start the season. So this is a narrative that's building, and the Renegades definitely know that. And Perez definitely knows that. And I think that when you look at it, they're going to go into this game knowing that they need to make a statement. Win this game at home. Help your attendance out for the rest of the season. If you lose this game, your home field advantage is never going to be as good as it'll be if you win this game. You win this game, you're going to help yourself out later, and I think that they understand that. You got to break the narratives. You got to get your home field advantage back to being a legit threat. And so I think they're going to do everything they can to win this game. But San Antonio is a really tough team to play, and they're going to keep it as close as they can. It's going to be a game where they do cover that +3 spread by getting 2 points down. It is going to hit the over. I think that what we saw last year, we saw a lot of these over-unders being like 5 points higher than they are now. But normally, week 1 games always hit the under. But with them catching up to that, we're going to see some overs. I think this is one of them. I just think that what it comes down to is you have Kellen Mond versus Luis Perez. You have to hope Mond as well. The Brahmas offense is going to have to rely a lot on their ground game with Lovett and McFarland returning. And they're going to have to hope that Mond is able to do enough to keep up. But the Renegades, I know Davion Smith joined late, but he already knows a lot about the system from being there last year. I think the Renegades offense is a better unit. I think the Renegades defense plays better than they did last season. Make a statement by doing what they couldn't do last year, and that's winning a close game. But again, if San Antonio wins this, I wouldn't be shocked. This is the toughest game to call, but I'm going to go with Arlington winning by 2 points. Now, the Sunday slate of games, you have the Michigan Panthers versus the Memphis Showboats, which is another game I will be doing a live play-by-play on, so be looking out for that. And then the Stallions versus Defenders. Panthers Showboats is the second toughest game to call, because a lot of it is about Memphis. You see, not everybody fully gets it about Memphis, but Memphis was the closest team built to San Antonio from a top to like a head coach down to players perspective. Yes, I know in terms of the overall roster, the Brahmas and Battlehawks are the closest. They're both quarterback question marks, rest of the team really good. But as a team, the Showboats and Brahmas are pretty much identical. You had a head coach that did one side of the ball and a coordinator did the other side of the ball. It wasn't a head coach who had more of a say on one side. It was basically like having a head coach of the offense and a head coach of the defense. Except instead of Wade Phillips and A.J. Smith, it was Ken Wisenhunt and Jaron Horton. Yes, you lose Ken Wisenhunt, but you still have Jaron Horton, and he's not taking over as head coach, so his duties are relatively the same as they were before, meaning his defense should be with basically no issue losing Wisenhunt. So that's what makes this a tough one to call and why I would still have Memphis at 6 in the power rankings. Memphis' defense is expected to be better because of all the Maulers they added, because they have a new identity. And so this is a really tough one to call because of that. It's a week 1 game. Yes, the Panthers are the most consistent team from last year in a lot of ways. Basically, all their stars are back. And that's what I think gives them the edge at Memphis. They win 20-15. I think this is another one of those games that hit the under. Now, why do I think it hits the under? It's just going to be the Showboats. It really is. I think the Showboats defense is going to play well enough to be able to kind of slow down that COC Mariner, Marcus Sims, Matt Colburn, Bryce Perkins offense. Not going to do enough to win, but it's going to do a lot to keep it close. But the Memphis offense versus the Michigan defense is what ends up being the deciding factor. I would not be shocked if we see Memphis' defense score a touchdown or get the ball within 10 yards to basically guarantee a touchdown for the offense for Memphis, and that's what makes this one close. Basically, like, imagine the playoff game between the Browns and Battlehawks last year where it was not a close game, but it was kind of close because St. Louis got that free fumble, except this one is like an earned fumble, not just a free one. It's kind of how I view it. Memphis is going to get like one of those kind of touchdowns where they just do a really good defensive play, and it gets them an extra touchdown to make this a much closer game than it should be. But overall, Michigan is the better team. They are the most consistent team from last year in pretty much every way you can think about it, from coaching to players. And so that gives them the slight edge. They beat Memphis. Birmingham, D.C., not even going to sugarcoat it. Birmingham beats them 34-11. I could have easily justified making this like 45 to like 3. I mean, DC is expected to get annihilated. If you were a bold bettor or a bold person, you would pick the Defenders to win outright. I'm not. Look, DC, I've said it before, had the worst offseason so far. Well, not so far. They had the worst offseason. Bringing back Teamu, massive question mark. I put it in a comment recently where I made the point clear. The only year in the ultra-modern era he's played well was when he had a top-tier, not even top-tier, the best running back in the league in Amber Smith in the XFL, 2 of the best receivers in the XFL, and a great overall offense around him. And when he didn't have that, he was a turnover machine. The Bandits in 2022, the Defenders last year. So I'm not sold in Teamu being a great quarterback. I think that people who say he's a top 5 quarterback are basing that off of legacy. He's not Luis Perez. Perez has consistently been a great quarterback. Only his time with the Vipers was he really not that great. People forget he was a really solid quarterback with the Generals until the playoff game. Perez is better. Perkins is better. You have 2 guys on Birmingham that are definitely better, arguably 3 with Cookus. And you have a lot of new rookies like Anthony Brown who you could easily argue are better than him. And then you have the loss of Reggie Barlow. Was Reggie a top-tier head coach? No, but he was still a solid coach that got you to a championship game. You lose him, and important to note, for those of you who don't know, Reggie Barlow has said, and a lot of reports have said, that this entire DC staff is going to leave to Tennessee State once the season is over. So your entire coaching staff already has a foot out the door. So it's just everything's going wrong for them. The bad cuts, Amos Smith having to be back from being injured with a bad injury. I just don't see it working out. Yes, if they pull off this victory, legitimately, they're probably a playoff team. If they pull off this upset, it's going to give them so much momentum. But this is one of those where it's just a recipe for disaster. Going against Skip Holtz on an opening day game, yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. Birmingham wins. You could easily justify this being an even more lopsided score. This could be a Showboat Stallions type of game or even worse than that, and if you know, you know. But overall, hits the over basically because of Birmingham. I think DC gets a field goal and a lucky touchdown, but Birmingham ends up pulling off the W. Now, as for overall records, we are changing up a bit. For those of you who have been around since the second UFL season, this is different than what I did that year. Instead of just doing the overall record and that's it, I'm going to be splitting it from the overall to this season. So on the right where it says overall win-loss, that is last year and this year combined. Now, I did add the championship game as we didn't see those ones, so took a couple L's and one W. Got the W on the Stallions on the money line, and the other two, my prediction was not correct with those ones. So overall record would be 19-21 with 3 pushes on the spread, 24-18 with the win-losses and 1 in the push, and then 29-14 on the overall win-loss. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly what that push is on the right, for those of you who don't know with betting, if the spread is like -3 and the final score is a 3-point difference, it is a push. Essentially, neither team fully won outright. Now, again, these are just looking at how my game score predictions relate to betting picks. I am not betting on every single one of these things. I am not saying you should. Again, at your own risk, but these are my predictions in relation to these to give you an idea of how well my picks have been in regards to these things. That's essentially what this is. Now, of course, for those of you who don't know, the other 3 in the bottom there, perfect game betting predictions is if I get all 3 parts right, spread over under money line. Perfect team score is if I get a single team score correct. So, for instance, with the Stallions, if the Stallions end up scoring 34, but the score is 34-20, I got the Stallions team score prediction right. And a perfect game, haven't had that. That's if somehow, some way, I get a perfect score. That's saying that like the Renegades versus the Brahmas is 24-22 Arlington. If I get that, then it is perfect. It's a perfect score. So that's how this overall works. And before I say sound off for this one, again, as I said, I'm recording this late on Thursday. To the point of me recording this, Fox has not announced Super 6 stuff for the UFL. That was going to be a weekly short on Thursday. Maybe it happens and I end up posting it before this video comes out and this part becomes null and void. But at the time of recording, that has not come out yet. So no, I did not forget to upload that. At the moment, we don't have a Fox Super 6 for this upcoming UFL season. Again, if that changes from me doing this part, it's going to age like milk and it'll be funny. That's why I'm not going to edit it out. But if it doesn't happen and there's no Fox Super 6, this is me telling you why there's no YouTube short on it like I've been doing. But overall, that'll do it. Make sure you subscribe with the bell turned on. Again, I will be live streaming the day this video comes out, doing a live play-by-play for the Roughnecks Battlehawks as long as it doesn't get postponed or anything like that. And I will be doing another one on Sunday between the Showboats and the Panthers. Again, I do power rankings videos, week review, another different type of video every week, and game picks. And if we get Super 6, Super 6 every week. So be looking for all of that. Think about becoming a community member for 99 cents a month. You get an exclusive video every month. You get multiple team emojis. You get previews to thumbnails or videos that have come out. And if you want to become a community hero for $2.99, you're going to get the ability to vote on special things that are exclusive to them. And this season is going to be every week, not counting this week, obviously, because I already said what I'm doing week 1. But every other week, I will be having the second live stream of the week being voted on by community heroes. So think about that. And as always, guys, have a great night.